Still moving forward with the podcast, and it's going on 2 years now. We got a bunch of really interesting people that I've interviewed, and I hope everybody gets a chance to check all those other interviews out. My name is Scott Howard. I'm with Earthen Hand Natural Building. This is my guest today, Matt Prosser from Holistic Progression Designs, and you do, holistic permaculture design services and natural building design and construction. So a whole lot of wonderful crossovers there. And I just love that sort of conjunction of, the natural building and the permaculture. And I'm always telling people, look, permaculture is like the umbrella, right? This is a set of principles. And so natural building, it fits in that. Natural building is one of the offshoots of the branches of permaculture, so it's really beautiful what you're doing. I had a good long look at your website, and it's just incredible, amazing works, a lot of permaculture design works that you've done over the years, and a lot of really great buildings. So yeah, I mean, kudos, man, just bravo. I was really excited to have found you online and to meet you now, and it's quite an honor. So thanks for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to reach out and carve out the time to make this happen.
Definitely. Beautiful. So yeah, we're in the process of getting together some demonstration Catalan vault build here in Oregon. It's a technique with so many applications. I mean, I see a lot of crossovers. I'm sure we could go down a lot of rabbit holes and talk about all the meeting of different techniques and how they would blend together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm gonna actually for the studio. I have my main house, which is interconnected domes on 3 different levels, and then in the corner of our plot, it's a very small plot. It's 600 square meters. Taking from the tiny house movement, I've been following that, the last 15 years or so. And we're gonna do a small little studio with catenary arch vault, similar technique where you use the handmade tiles laid 3 different ways on top of each other. So I've never done that before on a large scale, but I'm excited to try that out.
Yeah, very cool. It's like almost like weaving a basket, only using bricks.
Yeah. Was he using like quick cement when he was teaching you, or was he using like a plaster?
No, we use it's called natural cement, and it's a certain type of mineral that's dug out of the ground, and then they burn it at, I think, about 1,000 degrees, and it makes a very strong bonding cement that's very quick setting.
Yeah.
So we actually have to add retardant and acid in there to slow down the set process. But you can also use plaster of Paris for, applications where it's not going to get too wet.
Yeah, exactly. There's this debate going on as to what's the more appropriate, but yeah, exactly. It's the risk of it getting wet, no, because the plaster of Paris, that type of mortar, it can become very weak if wet.
Yeah. So usually they would get like that first cap, the first layer of bricks in with maybe a plaster of Paris if you want to save money or that's what you have. And then the subsequent layers, you would put mortar, like a Portland cement mortar, usually over that first layer, and then set the bricks in that. So you're using different types of cement. It's just that first layer to get the quick setting where you're just holding the bricks in place, and then in 10 seconds you can let go, or maybe 20 seconds.
It's like magic. I did a course not with Geordie, but with Ramon. It's another guy from Barcelona. He's 83 years old. He's probably come across him. He's got 300 videos on YouTube.
Oh, Ramon. Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
I did a course with him, and it's like magic. You know, you're mixing tiny amounts each time and hitting the bricks. He's got let go, and it just stays there. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, yes. It's just fun to do, right? You know, it's something that I think every builder should try just because it's so amazing to see it happen.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing to learn this. You know, this knowledge as well from our elders. This he's 83. He's been building for I think it was like since he was 15. So you know, a good few decades under his belt. He was doing amazing stuff.
Yeah, really great YouTube videos that he put out. Definitely very instructional. Like you can pretty much learn from the videos if you want to. It's good stuff.
Totally. I mean, he's an inspiration on so many levels because he's, you know, he's a YouTuber, so he's like editing everything himself, filming everything himself. He was filming when I was doing this small course with him. And then, of course, he has all this knowledge of different vaults and traditional building techniques. Amazing, amazing. And a lot of energy. At 83 years old, he's still going for it, you know, a massive smile on his face, following his bliss, doing what he loves,
Yeah,
energized.
yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, yeah. My teacher Jordy, they know each other. They're good friends. I mean, they live in the same neighborhood and everything. And I think Ramon wasn't around right when I was there, so I didn't get a chance to like stop by and meet him. But yeah, they've just been, you know, it's a thing that's passed down usually, you know, through the families. It's a really cool place too, a really nice part of the world. I like Barcelona. Are you there now?
Yeah, my wife's from Barcelona, so we are about 40 kilometers south of Barcelona. Right now, we're living in Sitges. It's like a small seaside town. Um, but where we're building, we've got this small plot that I mentioned before. It's about 11 kilometers inland. So yeah, it's beautiful because what makes this part of the world special is you can feel very disconnected because there's hills, quite a lot of hills, quite steep hills around. And then there's roads winding through them and vineyards. And then when it really raises up, it's just forest. So there's these urbanizaciones around, and often there's views of the forest. But at the same time, it's easy to get to Sitges, from Sitges to the airport or Barcelona or the rest of the world. So it feels kind of remote, but at the same time, you're connected. So yeah, for that reason, I really like it. For example, my parents visited um, last weekend. They can just nip over from England for a weekend and spend time with us. Yeah, my kids, they can play in the forest opposite the house. Sometimes I take them on a Saturday when I've got extra things to do, you know, and they're hanging out in the forest and making cabanas and yeah, little tree houses and stuff. So yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. I feel blessed to have ended up here, to be honest. It wasn't really planned. It just fell into place.
All right, so you live there now full time.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah,
years.
yeah. It's been about we moved. It's been about 8 years. Yeah, because for a couple of years we were in Turkey just before the pandemic, and for the lockdown we were there in Turkey, which was also yeah a blessing for us. We were very lucky that it worked out like that. And before that, I lived in India for 6 years, Thailand for I think 4.5 years. Um, yeah, and traveled other places as well. But yeah, so I'm influenced. I got into natural building um, in India, really. That's where I first started working with earthen construction, different types of earthen construction. And then that led me into permaculture. Yeah, the story started when I was 15 and I wanted to buy Nirvana records. I was really into music. I still am. My
Yeah.
uncle owned a construction company, and I come from quite a big family, and my parents were like, "Yeah, no worries, you can for your school summer holiday, you can go and help with your uncle's construction company. So I started working in construction. First off, I was just sweeping up and making cups of tea, you know. And then when I was 21, I didn't really plan it, but a friend of mine was planning to go to India for a few years, and a number of things happened, and yeah, I decided to join him. And after I fell in love with the place, everything about it, the nature, the food, the spirituality, many things. It really, you know, shook my mind up and gave me a new perspective on things. And then after about 4 or 5 years, I was working in the summer in England, and then I'd go back to India, traveling quite extensively. And after about 6 years, I was like, I've gotten so much from this country. I want to give something back. So I started volunteering at a school and farm in South India, in Tamil Nadu, called Buddha Smiles. And Ramu, he was a professor at the Madras University. He was interfaith, and he started this school, and very inspiring man. And I started volunteering there, and I realized that I didn't really have enough skills to really have an impact. So I'd heard about permaculture in Australia when I was there for 1 year in 2001. So I started thinking, okay, if I really want to give back, I've got to educate myself. And I'd always been interested in construction. Both my grandfathers were carpenters. One of them built his own house. So yeah, I was naturally leaning that way. And then I started to do a permaculture design course in Thailand, a project called the Panya Project. It's a little bit north of Chiang Mai.
Is that Jon Jandai's project?
Yeah, Jon Jandai is Pan. It's right next door. So we were
Okay.
kind of like a sister project.
Sure.
Panya grew out of Pan.
Right. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I'm friends with Jon. That's a really amazing place.
Yeah, he's an inspiration. I remember hearing him. I heard him speak quite a few times because we'd go over during courses. But yeah, he's, in terms of earthen building and empowering people to build their own houses and making it so accessible, and obviously, you know, surrounding the house with edible landscapes. Amazing. So yeah, his story inspired me. And what happened was I became friends with the people who ran the project. They invited me to stay longer term. I started a permaculture diploma with Richard Perkins through the British Permaculture Association.
Okay.
So I was glad to have him as a mentor. And yeah, I was living at the project. We were teaching lots of courses, running lots of courses. We were partying a lot as well. We were building lots of cool things. And yeah, slowly, I started teaching more. I was going back to India. And then, yeah, finally I became a consultant. Yeah, bit by bit, I was doing different projects in Turkey and Spain, England, all over. And then I got into, and we were doing tons of natural buildings. So natural building, I mean different types of earthen building, you know. So wattle and cob, adobe, traditional, sun-baked, compressed earth in formwork, super adobe in the bags, and other like hybrids and variations. But then I realized one of the problems with earthen building, especially in the tropics, was termites. And I started to understand more, getting deeper into it and getting feedback over the years from the buildings, some of the challenges and why some of the people moved away from earthen building in the first place.
Okay.
So
I've seen
yeah,
ants, sometimes ants will get into a cob building, and it's like you can kind of never get rid of them. So I imagine it's sort of similar, like if the termites take a liking to the earth, then
exactly
walls. Yeah.
Exactly, they're one of the biggest they're the biggest decomposer of organic matter in the tropics. And of course, we have the monsoon seasons there. so we started putting skirts, like basically 1 meter concrete pads around the buildings.
Yeah.
And that was Joe's idea from Pum Pum. He started doing that. And we were bringing the buildings up and out the ground. We couldn't get that much stone there. Sometimes for smaller builds, we could get stone because it's nice to bring the building, you know, a couple of steps out of the ground.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my passion for earthen building is definitely strong, and it was always there. But when I started building domes, it just snowballed. Like one person asked me to do a job, and then it came to another job and another job, until finally I'm designing people. There was one in Panama. I just finished another one in Madrid, the other side of Madrid, in Avila. I did multiple in Turkey, and yeah, I'm working on my own house as well. So yeah, that's basically my story. So like you said at the beginning, it's two things: permaculture, land-based design, and then aircrete domes. That's the two things I'm specializing in nowadays.
Right, right. But yeah, somehow you went through kind of all these, it's like this progression that I noticed in a lot of people and myself as well. You learned all the natural building techniques and then you kind of figured out, well, this is what works and this is what people want. And so that's how you arrived at using, you know, Portland cement in the right quantities in the right way to create these aircrete domes. Does that sound pretty accurate?
Yeah, what I see it as is like I have a foot in both worlds. So I was educated and brought up in the mainstream. Then I went to Thailand and saw all these sacred geometry, amazing buildings, earthen building. And part to make the business model work, what I was noticing is there was a demand. So I was serving the demand, and this is pretty niche what I do, to make it work financially as well for me and my family.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that was definitely an influencing factor as well.
Definitely, definitely. I feel you there, man. You know, I worked for myself for 20 years, like pretty much exclusively, you know, now and then I'd work for some other people, but ultimately I didn't feel like I could really break out and make the big bucks. So, you know, now I'm working for somebody else. I'm a building envelope consultant in the commercial building sphere. And it's been really interesting. I've learned a lot more about conventional construction than I ever thought I would, because I always sort of just poo-pooed it. But there's a lot there. There's a lot of value. And also, you know, like if you want to go where you got to go where the money is in a lot of situations. So yeah, I mean, I just kudos for, you know, finding that pathway and still keeping it holistically designed, and you know, and finding those clients and working with them. There's a lot to it, you know. People who are interested in becoming like a professional natural builder, you know, you got to study deeply and talk to people like Matt here, because there's a lot to it. I can say from my own experience. It's
Oh yeah, totally, totally. I mean, I'll be 45 next month, and I've been doing it since I was 15. But it's a constant learning curve.
yeah,
I think like one of the things that brought me to this space in my life is following my bliss as well. You know, doing the things that I really love, and you know, that set me on fire. There's that Rumi quote, you know, that I just always followed the things that intuitively I love doing.
yeah,
And I think that was a major thing, you know. I mean, I appreciate the compliments you get, but I didn't always get them compliments, you know. So I think there's like an inner knowing as a builder to do these things and try these different techniques and go to these faraway places, and it gives you such a rounded perspective, which informs your design decisions in the longer term.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I resonate with that. And it's almost like I feel, you know, we're sort of constructing more than a building. You're kind of constructing, when you pick your methods, it's cultural as well, you know. So you're, what kind of experience do you want to have? There's a human aspect, the organization of the group of people that creates the building. There's a lot to that. The experience, what type of experience do you want to have during construction also? So
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You know, I'm doing the dome, interconnected domes, and the land-based design, which can be, you know, a back garden or up to 3 hectares I'm working with.
Yeah,
But yeah, the quality of life, the quality of life that the clients want to live. I'm starting my design process with 20 questions, so I can really, really get to the core of what the client and oftentimes their family, what they want, and then I can design using that as my criteria. Sometimes in the early days and when I saw some courses, sometimes it can be this, you know, copy and paste element going on, but really understanding that core human needs and the quality of life, I think that is when, you know, the designs really, really bring value over the longer term.
definitely. Yeah, and everything, you know, being holistically designed, there's going to be no two alike, right? They're not exactly the same because that's the
Yeah.
point. Is that you start with a clean slate and you say what is actually needed for these people in this place at this time, and it's very unique and beautiful at the end to create that.
Yeah, yeah. I feel blessed. I mean, I've been working for other people for so many years, and I feel blessed that I can finally do it for myself and my family here in Catalonia. Yeah,
Yeah,
we want to create an edible botanical garden. It's going to be 10 years, a longer term project until I have all the details. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. You
super
know,
cool.
edible landscape surrounding the dome.
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Yeah, give me a decade, Scott, and you'll have to come over for a cup of
I'm
tea
working
one
on my
time.
own house design as well, even though I don't have land yet. I'm not worried about it. I just know that someday it'll get built. And
Totally. I think, you know, it's what I'm saying, that like follow your bliss and having that vision. The
yeah,
universe will open the doors. That's what happened to me. I found the other day when I was looking for something else, you know, the vision that I wrote, you know, it was 3 paragraphs, and then I created like a group of photographs. You could call it a vision board, I guess, 10 photographs of previous builds and models that I'd made. But I think having, you know, having that clarity in your mind and having it on paper and sharing it with something, getting super clarity within yourself, and then sharing that with the universe and the bigger picture, then it can align, you know, even if it takes a decade or two. I
yep,
think it comes from that inner clarity. So yeah, it's important to have that vision in whatever way works.
definitely, definitely. Everything we have had to be envisioned first before it was created. So everything comes from inside of us, and just having that patience to birth it out. It's a beautiful process. I love designing. I'm always designing something, even if it's not for clients. I even like designing things more when it's not for clients.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'm doing a kitchen edition right now for some clients, and then there's some other people that have, you know, just questions all the time, consulting here and there about natural materials, and you know, putting a lot of it's people want to use natural materials in their more conventional stick frame homes to do like an earthen floor or, you know, earthen plasters, and they want to do it themselves. So that's usually where I come in. I don't do it for them as much anymore. I just kind of show them how to do it and get them set up, and there's a lot of that, and then the design work sometimes, which is great. But yeah, I mean, what's next on the horizon? You just finished a house, or you're working on a house right now in that area?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm working on my own house. It's
Okay.
I designed it to be 4 bedrooms, but we're starting with 2 bedrooms. That's often I'm doing that for clients, allowing for expansion in the future and thinking that through from the beginning. And a small studio, like tiny house. Um, and it's a slow burner because I'm doing that during the days, and then I'm working for other people at the same time. So yeah, I just finished 2 jobs. One was um, 3 8-meter diameter interconnected domes the other side of Madrid. And then in Turkey, I lived in Turkey for a couple of years. It's a 1 hectare demonstration site and education center. So I just finished the design for that, and I'll go next summer to do the earthworks. And I'm also working on a design in Girona. It's like 2 hectare. It's basically a bare field. There's some forested area for a boutique hotel. That's what it will be. Yeah, some English crew that have moved over that are gonna renovate a old like country house with some existing buildings, smaller existing buildings around, and then yeah, they will create like a rural hotel for people with a big emphasis on people doing outdoor activities, climbing, bike riding. So then there's more consciousness around food, and I will design the 2 hectares, and yeah, that will be part of the marketing for the hotel, and also the visitors will be able to interact with some parts of it. We will do walking paths and some small hangout areas. So yeah, the food from that will go directly to the kitchen. Yeah, and then meantime, I'm working on my own house, and probably I have for the first phase another 15 months or something like that. So yeah, keeping pretty busy, keeping busy.
That's great. That is so cool. Um, let's talk materials more. I mean, so how did you get to the method that you're using now? Did you start with Aircrete blocks, or did you what did you experiment with to get to arrive at that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we were building exclusively with earth, the different types of earthen building in Thailand. And then I was realizing some of the challenges. We started through Joe. We started putting the 1 meter, Jon Jandai from Panya. We started putting the 1 meter skirt around the building. And then we were using it also for the foundation, some cement. And then I became interested in domes and super adobe, compacted earth. So either in formwork, which is more work, or super adobe. So we were compacting it. We realized when we compacted it, the termites would basically go and find somewhere easier. Whereas in the sun-baked earth and bricks, we were using rice husks or straw. And they would find that and hollow it out. And we were some small buildings, experimental buildings, and pizza ovens. We were demolishing and seeing like huge termite nests on the inside. So we were like, okay, because I came full circle from mainstream building to natural building to like, never going to use cement. Okay, it's fine to use a bit in appropriate places. And then when we were building domes, realizing with super adobe, basically you've got to make an upside down swimming pool, especially with the heavy tropical rains. So then you've got to reinforce it. And basically, yeah, scratch coat with Portland cement, 4 or 5 to 1. And then, yeah, a second layer. It is possible to use just lime, but then you're going to be, in my experience, then you're going to be doing maintenance every 1 or 2 years. If that maintenance isn't scheduled right, the water's going to come through, and the water's going to start coming through during the monsoon, which basically makes it very hard to repair during the monsoon. Basically, you have to chuck a tarp over it or move out and then come back to it. So there's these, maintenance elements that must be designed in. And normally in traditional cultures, they're designed in as a community. I'm sure you, as you well know, Scott, they're designed in as a community event.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I became interested in domes, interconnected domes. I like the aesthetic. But then I realized we're using quite a lot of cement at this point anyway. 1 meter skirt around, some for the foundation. If we're mixing in 5% for the ramp, for the compressed, which you don't necessarily have to do, but then the external skin. Then someone came to the project and they'd been to this other project and they were showing me these interconnected domes. And I was like, wow. So I went to the place with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, mother of my 2 children, Martha. We went to visit this place in Isan. It's like northeast Thailand. And I met a guy called Hajjar Gabran. We connected. He was a poet, philosopher, amazing guy, super creative, experimented with we were in a similar place because he'd experimented with tons of different alternative building techniques, lots of earthen building, wood, and realizing a similar thing, you know, requiring a lot of maintenance. And he was building domes, but he was using regular cinder blocks. And he started to use, as I was there, he built a number of beautiful constructions using domes and compasses to make them. And he'd started to use like Yutong or cellular concrete blocks, which is basically a mix of something similar, dense foam, similar to shaving foam, mixed with cement. So, you know, 2 or 3 millimeter maximum air bubbles in a block. In a block,
Yeah.
60
Cellular
centimeters.
concrete. Yeah.
Cellular concrete.
Yeah,
which has been
also
around
have
for
this
more
like
than 100 years.
aerated, I think it's called aerated autoclave concrete or something. Kind of similar products.
Yeah, exactly. The AAC, it's been in an oven, which helps, like a huge oven, a big cylindrical oven, which helps it cure. These have been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
And they're lightweight, easy to cut them with wood, very high insulation. And I was like, really interesting. I spent 10 days or a couple of weeks with him. We were playing music. I'm a visual learner, so I learned a lot just from like chatting and him showing me around. And then what really got me into it is straight away, within a couple of months, a friend who I'd met at a course previously, he invited me to Turkey. He had like 1 hectare, a beautiful site. It's called Yurdu, 1 hour from Istanbul on the ferry. And he invited me there to design his land, basically. So we designed his land using permaculture design, and he wanted a house built. So we built the house from Aircrete. That was 8-meter diameter on top of a 220 cylinder. Basically, one big open plan house with separate. The only part that was closed was the bathroom.
Sure.
So that was like a springboard into using cellular concrete. And then one thing led to another. Somebody else asked me to do it here and there, and I refined my design process. Hajjar went on to start Dome Gaia, so he figured out a budget way of making your own cellular concrete bricks.
One of my friends, this guy Aircrete Harry, is very creative with the Aircrete, and it kind of brought it to my attention that, you know, this is really something that we need to consider using. Because I was sort of, you know, kind of anti-Portland cement for quite a while. I mean, I built dozens of buildings where we use, you know, 1 bag of cement in the whole building or whatever. That's cool. That's fine. But I think we're at a point where, yeah, I mean, you might need some performance materials for certain situations. And this, particularly the Aircrete, you know, whether it be Portland cement or another type of cement, there's a lot of room for other materials. We're researching that now. I think that Aircrete stuff is just wonderful. I mean, you can get a lot. It goes far. It's insulative. It's mineral based, so it never wears out. It never rots. You know, insects can't eat it. They can't even burrow through it. So there's a lot of advantages there. Yeah, and then we can move into potentially magnesium cement or geopolymers. And then right now we're just kind of experimenting with how to make aircrete with those two, and with some success. So it's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. I think that's the future. I think that's the future, and yeah, I'll be interested to follow along with that, to use alternatives to, regular Portland cement. That's super interesting.
It's always going to be a little more expensive for the time being, anyway. But that's something I'm interested in, and some people I'm sure are as well.
Yeah, when I said before as well that I've got my foot in both worlds, I'm also, because I built under the radar, and the vast majority of the buildings that I did were under the radar, or completely earthen in Thailand. But now I'm working with the Ayuntamientos, town halls. Most of the buildings that I'm doing are passing building regs. So you have to give them what they want up until a point to be able to get the builder's license. Understanding the code, understanding how to communicate with them. I did the first one in cellular concrete domes, the first one in the States, in Virginia, a couple of years ago. The first one in Panama, which was seismic zone. They have a lot of earthquakes there. And the one here was the first one in Spain. So understanding, working with different engineers and understanding how to meet the building regs in different places. Also, it's very interesting because you're seeing the same type of building, but from different perspectives. An engineer will say one thing here and a different thing there. So yeah, that's contributing significantly to the cost, jumping through all the hoops that are necessary to get official building. But a foot's in the door now, so I think we could substitute out Portland cement for these alternatives that I've heard about, you mentioned here, but I've never worked with. I don't have direct experience, but I'm totally open to that. One thing that I'm always doing on my buildings, or recommending, and the ones that I build myself, is putting earthen plasters on the inside as well. It's basically upside down swimming pool externally, but I'm using like earthen plasters internally.
Sure, it makes it a lot nicer to be next to that type of material. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think what we're leaning toward now, and I haven't built an aircrete that's permitted yet, just to be clear, but I've built other natural buildings that were permitted, and a lot of my other stuff was under the radar as well. But one of these guys is a friend of mine, Anthony Dente, with Verdant Structural Engineers. He's just so on point, and he knows his stuff, and he's able to guide us through any kind of permitting process. It may cost a bit more or a lot more, but that's not the biggest hurdle anymore. We can get through that. But as far as like the cement, thin shell cement is kind of where I'm leaning mostly these days, and working with potentially like a 1 to 2 inch thick exterior wall, and then the same for the interior wall, and then filling that space in between with like a aircrete, maybe, some kind of insulation. And that the fact that we have, fiberglass or basalt rebar or metal, whichever it is, the reinforcing mesh, and then a certain thickness of a certain type of cement that has a known strength, allows us to calculate that. And so you can kind of get away with like whatever shape you want, which is pretty cool. You can have different types of curves. It doesn't have to be just the catenary curve that we use in most of our, my super adobe domes and so on.
Yeah, that's amazing that you've got that. That's part of the key, to have them support around, to have them, them heads around that can inform the decisions. You've got that engineer, amazing. So,
Right.
how would you form that? Like, what would be? You would use a compass, or it'd be like free form? It'd be like ferro cement, or Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think I think right now some of the research that we're doing this summer is really just getting familiar with these air forms, and so we were going to make like Tyvek using a Tyvek type material, like a non-woven Tyvek. We would sew
Yep.
together an air form and inflate that and use that to establish that first thin shell. You can also use a PVC like roofing material and weld it together to make a more durable air form. So I think that's a really economical way to go about it. Not the way that I've done it before. I mean, I've probably built, I don't know, like 10 domes or something, like kind of a lot of domes, mostly rammed earth, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's all done with like math and geometry and compasses, and you're forming it to a certain shape using the guides. Um, but it's kind of a no-brainer when you have the airform already set up. It's already showing you exactly where to go. But yeah, I mean, even some of the methods that these Catalan vault builders that we talked about earlier are using, I think that, potentially it takes some skill, but establishing that first layer with the Catalan vault method as your inner thin shell, so to speak, then you can put whatever you want on top of that. You've already established that inner surface of the building, and then it can support the rest of the layers. I think there's room for that too. I don't know the engineering. I'm just saying, that could work.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, I think hemp as well. I was talking to a builder the other day, a local guy. He's building with hemp, and we were talking about how hemp could also be used as an installation layer. Yeah, I think the key is it's the external layer, protecting it from the rains. I think
Sure,
that's
sure.
one of the
So, which reminds me, I meant to ask you earlier. So, are you working with like maybe some coatings or some kind of masonry sealers on the outside because of the horizontal part of the dome is going to be more susceptible to water?
yeah. We're the technique that I'm using is basically like upside down swimming pool. So on top of the Aircrete, I have about 15 millimeters scratch coat, and in that is a very high quality fiberglass mesh, 330 grams per square meter, which is about 6 times the normal strength. I put that in the scratch coat, and then on top I put 10 millimeters fine coat, which is 4-to-1. It has a waterproof additive. On some buildings, I'm also adding a latex-based paint externally. So yeah, it's using cement, but that I guess there is room to experiment more with that, but that technique I know with 100% confidence works, so I'm happy to put that in my drawings for for my clients.
Sure.
But yeah, as you mentioned before, I would love to experiment with other substitutes for cement. These different magnesium and the other one that you mentioned. I think that is the future. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, geopolymers. Joseph Devodovitz, they have this summer camp. I think it just passed like this last week or something. It's every summer they have a gathering of researchers. And what's cool about geopolymers is that it's completely different than every other kind of cement that we've met. It can be mostly clay based, and there are several different types of chemistry, but essentially what's happening is kind of like a reforming of the molecules and creating a crystalline type structure. So it's very non-porous by the time it's done. It can be very non-porous, and you can get a very super strong cement out of something that was originally mostly clay. So it's kind of a miracle in a way. And yeah, I'm super interested in it as well. I'm just studying all the time. We've done probably, a few dozen test bricks. That's as far in as we are now with that. Um, so, it's a little bit complex maybe to get your hands on some of the mineral components that you need that beside the clay. It's like a sodium silicate and potassium silicate type stuff, a base that you mix with the other ingredients. Um, but yeah, as far as the magnesium cement goes, I think you'll be really excited to play with it, because the people that I learned about it from were building whole houses just out of chopped hemp or chopped bamboo
Yeah.
and the magnesium cement, and it's quite water resistant. It's can be waterproof, and it's very user friendly. I mean, it still dries your hands out a little bit, but other than that, I mean, it's completely non-toxic. There's no heavy metals. It's got magnesium in it, right? So if you got some in your body, it would actually be good for you. And it's fine
Yeah.
next to plants. It's great next to crops and food plants. And but yeah, the blocks that we're making now are all different types of cellulose, different straw or wood chips or rice hulls or what have you, hemp, different sizes of hemp, and then mixing that with the magnesium cement, and you get these really nice, lightweight but very durable, strong blocks. And I don't know exactly what we're going to accomplish with that yet. What I want to do is just keep experimenting, but it's really good stuff, really exciting, and kind of a compromise for me. It's like, not everything can be cob, right? So this is like one step up from cob. Um, but yeah, you don't have to get to Portland cement or lime if you don't want to.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that work. I think that's the future. I would love to be substituting out Portland cement for that stuff. So yeah, I
We're
will
getting there,
definitely be
definitely.
following along with that.
And these folks over at there's a company called Geopolymer International. That's kind of the American sister company to the French company. That's the original Geopolymers company with Joseph Davidovitz. And so they are working with 3D printing now. I mean, they got, the first 3D printed geopolymer house was last year. And anyway, it's very exciting. And yeah, we can definitely touch base with them. They're available to help us. They've been helping me with some of my other projects. Um, and also, I'm happy to help you with whatever information I have to share with you. And that's where it's at to me. It's just information sharing. And we can get you we can have you guest speak at some of my other events too. That would be great.
Yeah, totally, totally.
That would be
I'll
awesome.
be up for it.
Yeah.
What projects have you got lined up, or what projects are you excited about for now or in the future? Or
So uh kind of for now, for this summer, yeah, I'm really just focused mostly on my research builds. So we're gonna do a small sauna building and work with the aircrete, the magnesium aircrete, and the air forms, as well as the Catalan vault method. And then we're experimenting with the geopolymers as well. So it's kind of just figuring out how can we use these things in a real application, and what can we learn in there. So we'll probably mix in some magnesium cement with the cellulose also. So we're trying to just demonstrate it, and then get something built, and learn from that. So that's the most exciting thing, really. I mean, other than that, just helping my clients with their designs, like I mentioned. One of the first permitted rammed earth part of a home that's being done here in Vancouver, Washington, working on that project. Other than that, I'm kind of just taking it easy right now compared to past years, just so many years, a couple decades of really working myself so hard. And I've taught at least a few workshops every year since 2001 or 2002, somewhere in there. And so
Wow.
this is the first year I'm not teaching any workshops. I'm just taking a break and focusing on the research.
Yeah. Yeah. Good on you. That's something that we overlook, right? Part of the permaculture ethics is earth care. Well, there's three ethics: earth care, people care, and fair share. And the people care, this looking after ourselves.
Yeah,
Sometimes we can forget that and just push
yeah,
and
yeah.
push.
Well, like you
Yeah,
said before, like what gets you fired up? What makes you feel excited about life? And I'm just honing in on that. It's like I have a lifetime passion for design and building, and I feel very at home when I'm creatively working with something. But yeah, I feel much more creative when there's no like too much time limit or budget limit. So we keep things
totally.
small. So I'm funding my own research. So everything's kind of shrunken down. So it's affordable to do these builds. But yeah, I'm also working on a design that is basically inspired by a friend and teacher of mine, this guy Dan Winter, who invented a electromagnetic healing device called the Theraphi. And
Wow.
yeah, and it works, and it induces bliss, and it kind of helps lighten the body, and it can helps people with pain management and everything. It's great. It's a great device. Um, but I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had a temple where you could go into this like a meditation chamber, and you could potentially use that meditation chamber in conjunction with the Theraphi device. So I've designed this kind of pyramid shaped thing that has a womb, kind of an egg shaped inner room, and so yeah, hopefully we can build that at some point too. Hopefully there'll be a client. Hello, client out there, come find me, and we'll build that with some of these same techniques. Using the thin shell cement and magnesium cement.
Amazing, amazing, very
Yeah,
inspiring.
let me know if you want one. Like, we'll come
Yeah,
out to
yeah,
Barcelona.
yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, seriously, I'm looking for any excuse to come to Barcelona anytime. So, well, thanks again, Matt. This is really fun. I'm looking forward to just, networking and continuing and sharing information with you. Really, really, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great connecting and hearing what you're up to, Scott. Very inspiring.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to seeing your home and seeing more of your designs, and
Nice one. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time for this.
take care, brother.
Cheers, Scott. Ciao.
Cheers.